Oikos presents 15 Seconds of Strength.
Here we go. Steve's got a trunk full of groceries and no one to help him.
Oh, that's tough, Jim. Looks like a 5-trip load at least.
He grabs the first bag, the second. Bob, it looks like he's trying to do it all in one trip. He shimmies the door open, steps over the dog, and he stumbles.
Oh, right into the kitchen without missing a beat. Jim, now that's a man who eats his protein-packed Oikos.
With 15 grams of complete protein in each cup, Oikos Triple Zero can help build strength for every day. Oikos, stronger makes everything better.
How to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1, go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2, collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3, play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4, unleash your excitement.
Woohoo!
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
This is VOCM Open Line. Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now. Here's VOCM Open Line host Paddy Daly.
Well, all right, and good morning to you. Thank you very much for tuning into the program. It's Friday, April the 12th. This is Open Line. I'm your host, Paddy Daly. David Williams, who's producing the program this morning. You'll be speaking with David when you pick up the phone to give us a shout in the queue and on the air. If you're in the St. John's metro region, the number to dial is 709-273-5211. Elsewhere, it's toll-free long distance 1-888-590-VOCM, which is 8626. So if you're a regular listener to the VOCM morning show, especially this morning, you know that it's my friend and colleague Ben Murphy's last day with us here at your VOCM. So just want to say congratulations on a great run. Really talented young fella. He's got some big opportunities ahead of him. So thanks for your friendship and all your contributions to the airwaves here at VO. So go get him, Ben. Great young fella. All right, beautiful sunny blue sky day here in the city of St. John's, headed towards a high of 8. Looks like tomorrow, for those of us who've got a lot of cleanup to do in the backyard, tomorrow's the day, but the rain coming on Sunday. So away we go. Checking in Toronto at the Players' Championship. Guju, 3-1 now in second place in the tourney. So go get them. In the NHL, Austin Matthews, 67 and 68 last night. 3 games remaining to get his 70th goal. And a huge night for Sidney Crosby. So, I mean, if he brings the Pittsburgh Penguins into the playoffs, he's got to be in the Hart Trophy conversation. So last night, he went above Phil Esposito to 10th all-time in NHL scoring, recorded his 1,000th assist. He's the 14th player in the NHL to record 1,000 assists, 7th fastest. They only need 1,269 games. Gretzky, 645. Lemieux, 856. Coffey, 1105. Oates, 1174. Ronnie Francis, 1235. And Marcel Dion, 1259. So congratulations to the kid. Okay. It was on this date in 1980 that the Marathon of Hope began as Terry Fox dipped his leg into the Atlantic Ocean and off he turned to the west with 2 bottles of ocean water, and of course sadly ended the Marathon of Hope just outside of Thunder Bay in early September, so on this date. And I don't know if you watched the Masters back in 1992, but I'll always remember that tournament. It was when Freddie Couples won his only major tournament, and of course playing number 12, one of the most spectacular holes in the world. Playing 12, it's got a steep bank leading back into the water. For some miracle reason, a Couples hits it into the hill and it stays. It does not go back into the water, and he hangs on to win his first and only major at Augusta National. He was 2 strokes ahead of the 1976 champ Raymond Floyd. All right, do you know who Summer McIntosh is? If you don't, now you soon will. So at the Canadian Open Swimming Championships, a couple of days ago, she set the world record in the 200-meter freestyle. And last night, in an absolutely stacked field, she won the 100-meter. So in the pool with her was Penny Oleksiak, the most decorated Olympian in Canadian history. She's got 7 medals. Maggie McNeil, Mary Sophie Harvey, all in the pool. And young 17-year-old Summer McIntosh beats them all to the wall with a time of 53.90. Amazing stuff. Come on with the Olympics for her. All right, so tourism season is right around the corner. There's thoughts that it's going to be a banner year for icebergs. They're talking about the amount of ice that's out there already and the northerly winds pushing them on shore. So the folks in Twillingate and other areas say that last year was a record season, think it's going to be even bigger this year. And then, of course, with tourism season comes the annual conversation about air access and the like. Then there are some tourism operators here worried about, and talking about the provincial government possibly getting involved in the rental car crunch. I'm not exactly sure what they mean by the provincial government getting involved, but the average weekly cost of a rental car in the province, we're told, is $1,800. So for some of the tourism operators outside, say for instance, if you land in St. John's and maybe start your holiday here, if you don't have a rental car, it's unlikely you're going to do a lot of touring around the province. So it's an accessibility issue and an affordability issue. On the national front, the Rental Car Association says that even the manufacturers are not giving them preferential treatment and access to fleet cars. They're, of course, turning to the retail market. So I don't know what the province is or can or should do on this front, but it is a problem. It's a problem right across the country. I'm going away this summer. We were able to find a rental car and able to cover it with some air miles, but couldn't get the kind of vehicle we wanted, and the cost is prohibitive for many, and it's going to be an ongoing problem here. So if the companies themselves can't even get cars, then I don't know how we're going to solve this, but it is going to have an implication for tourism operators that are so-called off the beaten path. You want to take it on as a tourism operator or what have you, we can do it. Because you remember, like last summer, we would see U-Haul trucks going around, and they weren't moving from apartment to apartment or home to home or going to the dump. They were the rental cars, which is truly amazing stuff. Let's keep going. Speaking of tourism season, it should be crab season. And it is crab season, but as you know, the tie-up continues. So we've heard from the FFAW, we've heard from the Association of Seafood Producers, and they say that every offer they make to the union is flatly rejected. Lots of confusing numbers out there associated with what's actually happening. So there's talk now of making the price offer from the ASP in and around $2.80. People are even throwing around $3. There have been 3 applications by outside buyers, none of which have been approved at this moment in time. And those numbers fluctuate in and around $3.25 per pound. It always boils down to the percentage of the market price. So here's where some of the confusion lies and the contradictory numbers. The FFAW, they insist that they've been offered a 37% share this season. ASP says it's actually 53%. So we can talk about that from whatever angle you want. But so what Jeff Loader, the executive director at ASP, says, the difference is because the weight of the crab landed is not the same as the weight of the crab once it's processed and sold to the market. Then he floats out whether or not this is fair or accurate or legitimate. It's what's coming from Mr. Loader, is that if and when we have an extended tie-up again this season, then we might have a hard time getting our product into the market. And he talks about Japan, even though at the exact same time, ASP admits that their primary market is in the United States. So whatever angle you want to take here, but what I will add to that conversation is, look, the relationship has always been fractured and contentious and maybe getting worse. Maybe that's stating the blatantly obvious. There's the possibility or the likelihood of another protest on Monday. That's what I see floated about in their fisheries forum page on Facebook. On top of the protest, what was frustration and anger is now at a rolling boil. I mean, some of the commentary is really quite something. This is only going to get worse. So whether it be the government planting stories about John Efford or anything else, or the inability to come up with some sort of formula that can work for all hands, this might get a lot worse. It was all bad enough last year. It's been all bad enough this year. And whatever side you support, fair enough, but ultimately, for the success of the industry, something's got to give. So anyway, the top continues, even though it is crab season. What a terrible story coming from Grand Falls, Windsor. So at St. Albans Anglican Church, you've probably heard the story, but, you know, people might say and give some defense or excuse to the people who broke in, not once, but twice, to empty the cupboards, empty the freezer, stole all the turkeys at the community kitchen, which is in the church. So the volunteers that operated, they're talking about being disheartened, and some of them were absolutely furious, and so they should be. So whether it be the damage in the thousands, having to beef up security at the church. So yes, the price of food. Yes, people are stressed. Yes, the cost of living. But busting into the church that are only there to try to help people who are in need, seniors and otherwise, is truly a disgraceful act. Imagine, they had all their maps for their meals and functions mapped out right to the end of May. Now, thankfully, there's been some organizations, including the town, the Salvation Army, Sobeys itself, congratulations. They're going to try to chip in to get them back on their feet. But if you know who did this, do the right thing. You know, it's not about being a rat. It's trying to make sure that people who are trying to serve the community are protected. And one way to protect them is to get these 3 nuisances off the street. You know, the first night 2 of them broke in, saw that there was a wealth of stuff to steal, so they come back armed with a just big bucket load of shopping bags and stole it all. took it all. Amazing and brutal is what that is. Okay, how are we doing out today? We were a little late getting to air this morning with Ben's Goodbye, which was really quite lovely. So there's a study ongoing, plenty of studies always on the go at Memorial University. This one looking at sleep patterns, insomnia for breast cancer survivors. Dr. Sheila Garland, who's made time for us many times here on this program. She is an associate professor of psychology and oncology and a registered clinical psychologist. She's looking for volunteers who are breast cancer survivors to participate in a study to look at what some treatments could be to cure or to lessen the effects with insomnia. I sleep terribly too, so I'm really curious. Maybe Dr. Garland has time for us today or sometime next week to come on the program. So obviously with a cancer diagnosis comes the built-in worry and anxiety. Many of us who are kept up at night could be about exactly that. Problems inside the household, problems with your bank account, worries about your job, all those types of things, but then add in a health concern, and obviously that would keep people awake. And probably keep their loved ones awake. So they're going to be able to do this work at home. So they're looking for 24 women, and they're going to wear this piece of equipment called a Cerebra. So it's a bunch of little nodes on your face. They measure your brain waves. You sleep, and then you go through some 7 sessions inside of this cognitive behavioral therapy. Then you go ahead and wear the Cerebra one more time to see if your sleep patterns have improved. But if you're interested as a breast cancer survivor, reach out to Dr. Sheila Garland at Memorial University. Looks like the government is absolutely now going to proceed with the replacement of Her Majesty's Penitentiary, much to people's chagrin, but it absolutely has to be done. So the issue here is the second time they've gone back to the drawing board. And now there's only one bidder, New Avalon Correction Partners. That's a corporate entity led by Plenary Americas, who were involved in the approval the first time, even though the cost got out of hand, and PCI Investments. This is always going to be the problem. When they say they eclipsed their affordability envelope, we don't know exactly what numbers were brought forward, but since they went back for a second call for qualifications, they call it, now to proceed with an RFP to talk about design, finance, maintenance, and the like, the costs have absolutely soared. So when the government, looking down the road, talking about the pledged need to replace Her Majesty's Penitentiary, and yes, it may have exceeded their affordability envelope, but that envelope is now doubled maybe, because you know what the costs of everything are, whether it be through the trades, materials, and otherwise. So I guess we're going to proceed. Minister Hogan thinks we're going to be able to have a replacement built in 3 years' time, all the while spending some $15 million over the course of 2 years for some needed renovations, whether it be for programming and visitation, the commitment to hire an additional 50 correctional officers, most of which will be headed to Her Majesty's Penitentiary. So, yeah, that's on the table as well. And, of course, it's coming in the form of a P3. Government is touting the success of P3s. I don't know how they've measured that success, and they look at things like the Cornerbrook Hospital, a couple of long-term care facilities out in Central. You know, a 60-bed unit in Gander, a 60-bed unit at Grand Falls, Windsor. We all saw what the listed deficiencies and the lag time between when we should have opened those doors, between when they eventually opened those doors, people lying in hospital beds, exacerbating wait times. So let's talk P3. It used to be a really important conversation. Now it feels like people are just shrugging their shoulders. Oh, okay, that's what we're doing. It can come with short-term relief, but it may indeed result in long-term pain. I've never really, they provided us some details and numbers about the forecasted cost, you know, whether it had been done in traditional methods, like going to the market, getting someone to build it, then the government takes it over and finances it and runs it. Not anymore. Add to it divided highway. So they say it's a good thing, but is it? All right, couple of quickies before we get to you. So we can indeed talk about World Energy GH2. We can indeed talk about offshore wind and the possibility for that to come. And that, of course, all requires amendments to the Atlantic Accord, which are ongoing. It looks like that's going to happen sooner than later. And I heard Brian Callahan and Brian Madore talk about a confirmed story in the Harland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast that the Sea Rose, which is in for refit or some repairs, and of course there's a fire. They say it's minor, although 50 firefighters responded to the fire. We don't know what the extent of the damage will be or is. We don't know how that's going to affect the timeline for the Sea Rose to be back in operations at West White Rose or on the White Rose oil field, but that fire has been confirmed. And if you want to talk about what we're hearing at the inquiry into foreign interference, so David Vigneault, the head of CSIS, is back testifying for the third time starting today. Yesterday, the Prime Minister basically said that they didn't know if the intelligence provided was enough to require any action. whether it be about Han Dong or otherwise, but the notes have been very clear that in 2019 and 2021, there was a pragmatic, focused attempt to interfere in the election by China in particular. They've talked about India, Pakistan, Russia. So it really felt like the Prime Minister was calling into question the veracity of the work done by CSIS. They even say that some of the briefing notes that have been tabled and talked about repeatedly did not make its way into the PMO. Vigneault says that's not true. So now we've got a standoff, which is really unfortunate. Add that to the issues regarding commitment to defence spending to meet the floor of 2% of GDP. This does indeed have an impact outside our borders. Our position in the Five Eyes and the intelligence community, our position inside NATO, which are not only military allies in their defensive alliance, they're also trading partners. So what's the fallout going to be outside of Canada? I mean, the integrity of our democratic institutions would be the primary concern and focus of Canadians, but it's going to have a ripple effect outside our borders. I really do think that's the case, and if you want to talk about it, we can do it. Quick one that I wanted to mention, and this is a big deal. Okay, here we go. I want to say good morning and congratulations to Georgina McGraw. Georgina McGraw is one of the driving forces behind moving towards passing Bill S-249. And so yesterday, history was made. That act is respecting the development of a national strategy for the prevention of intimate partner violence. So congratulations, Georgina. Important initiative, and she brought it over the finish line. Bravo. Add to it, April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. So there's, of course, a couple of traumatic issues there. And there's lots more I wanted to get to, but first we're going to get to your calls. We're on Twitter. We're VOCM Openline. Follow us there. Email address is openline@vocm.com. When we come back, let's have a great show. We're going to kick it off with Fish Harvester, the face of the protest, John Effort. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 6 and say good morning to John Effort Jr., Portagray Fish Harvester. Good morning, John. You're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy. How are you?
I'm doing okay this morning. How about you?
I'm doing great. I'm in Trout River this morning, meeting with a group of fishermen down here this morning, crab, lobster fishermen mostly. But that's where I'm to today.
Before we get into the crab, which of course is the primary concern for many, it's an interesting vote coming up for lobster harvesters in Atlantic Canada. Talk about the minimum size and the implications with relations with the United States, for instance, the ability to put our crab into the American market or to get flights to Asia, what have you. What are you hearing about the vote on the lobster size?
Something that I just heard on the radio this morning. That's my the first time hearing about it. Not really familiar with it. Something that I'm going to take a look at now later on today to be informed before I can even talk on that. Lobster is not one of my fisheries personally, but in saying that, lobster is very important for a lot of fishermen now, especially on this part of the island.
Yeah, I only mentioned it because you said that there's some lobster harvesters that are part of your meeting in Trout River this morning, because the Americans are moving to a minimum size of 86 millimeters. Currently in Canada, 82.5 is the minimum you're allowed to take, so that could have some widespread trade implications. But anyway, I'll leave that for another day. So a couple of days ago, we heard from the FFAW, basically just reiterated their stance regarding the Blackwood report. Yesterday, we heard from the Association of Seafood Producers. A couple of things. They're talking about, being able to work with harvesters to increase the price when the market says so. Jeff Lawler says he's optimistic about that being the case. And they say every offer they've made to the union has been flatly rejected. But here's the confusing part for me, John, is the percentage of the market price. The FFAW insists that it's 37%. ASP says it's 53%, based on the fact that the weight landed is not the same as the weight after processing and shipped to market. What do you make of it?
Look, basically, what has happened there is it's basically a way to make one number using a different way of adding it up look better than the other. They're 57% when and it's been applied. If they want to use that on the way that they're doing it, if they want to use the 57% with their again way of doing it. Sorry, I'm rambling a bit, but it's not an actual number, and the union has done up the numbers on using the way that they're talking about doing it with the 57% as the section price. It's actually much higher than that. It's pushing more towards 70%. So if it traditionally, and the traditional fair market share, basically they're just using a different way to apply it against the 37% of the traditional market share to make it look better. It's basically the right and the left. Trying to get my head around the right words for this. It's the same system, but they're using a different formula to come up with those numbers. But if again the 57% that the way they're doing it, our 37% on the other side would translate into closer to 70% on their side. So even the numbers that they tried to convolute are wrong.
Let's just get back to dollars and cents then, I suppose. So they put $260 into the panel and the union put in $283. Now they're talking about the willingness to set the floor price to begin the season at $280, 3 cents less than what the union proposed. So if we're going to have a prolonged standoff, and even the thought of the outside buyers, none of the 3 applications have been approved at this point, but at $280, had they picked $280 at the beginning, we'd probably be on the water at this moment in time, wouldn't we?
Yes, if they'd have picked 280 with the fair market share using the Blackwood formula, yeah, we would be on the water right now. But they didn't offer the Blackwood formula. They offered their formula, which the only reasoning they can give to say that their formula is good is that they feel that it's fair. The Blackwood formula is based on research and traditional historic sharing. So if we use what ASPA's presented on their last submission, well, basically, and they're also basing it on a higher Urner-Barry price. But at the end of the day, as the Urner-Barry moves, the price won't move. So really, we're not gaining anything. But if they would have accepted the FFAW position and formula, we would have been fishing now. We would have had our market, our market Urner-Barry market would have been rising. Therefore, our price would have been rising. I mean, right now we would have been up over $3.
So, Mr. Loader also said that at $280 to begin, and if the market improves, the price will improve. So I'm not sure where that standoff would remain. And in addition, whether or not this is fair or fear-mongering, I'll let you characterize it. But he says there might be a problem getting into the market. And we know what happened last year. There's a lot of crab got dumped and wasted because we fished at the end of the season in some pretty warm waters. So do you have any worries about access to some markets if indeed this is a prolonged standoff, given what Mr. Loader said?
Look, again, and it's fear-mongering. We were 6 weeks late starting last year. Yeah, all the crab came in. A
lot got dumped, though, didn't it?
That's what I'm getting to. The processors here wouldn't concede that they couldnn't handle it in 2022 when there was no lockdown. There was crab dumped in 2022. There was crab dumped by processors in 2023. If they would only have conceded that they couldn't handle it and let us ship our product where we wanted to, we wouldn't have had that problem. And again, 2023 was a little bit different. We were 6 weeks late starting, but in 2022 we had the same issues. Look, it's about undercapacity, and they can say that there's no undercapacity here. It's wrong. It's a lie. There is undercapacity here. If we started April 1 this year, we would still been scheduled. We still would have been losing out on other fisheries that we want to prosecute. There is an undercapacity issue here. There is no denying it. They can deny it all they like. We all know there is an undercapacity here.
Wasn't there some concessions offered by government and ASPA on that when we talk about £5 million additional capacity, removal of caps, like it always comes to St. Mary's plant last year, and of course they were lucky enough to bring in another £4 million to get them over the hump. But so weren't those concessions offered to exactly replicate your demands?
Yes, some concessions were offered, but again, it was concessions. Look, we were looking to just blow the caps, like in any plants now that are capped. Just get rid of the caps, put everyone on the same level playing field. We didn't get that done. St. Mary's did get a raise in their initial cap. There was one new license, board-approved license, passed out. The other one was denied. We wanted whatever the board approved. If you've got a government-appointed board approving licenses, processing licenses, they should be approved. There was only one approved. It should have been two. We were looking for the caps to be blown off. We took concessions to get the fishery moving. on the assumption and on the fact that we were going to move forward and keep an eye on this, keep a check on this, and move forward to increase more production, more capacity on the island.
The assertion that it wouldn't hamper or harm plant workers, if you look out in Bonavista and listen to the people who work in that plant, employing some 400, it's either the largest or one of the largest processing facilities in the province. Some 58 of them have already lapsed their employment insurance, consequently looking for income support. So there's clear evidence that this type will indeed have harm on some plant workers, certainly if we listen to the folks in Bonavista. So what's your message to them?
Look, stand strong. We have to get this done right now. Again, at the end game of what's happening here is a takeover of the Newfoundland fishery, to get rid of all the independent fish harvesters, to take every pound of every product that they could possibly get and own it corporate ownership, and get rid of us all. Get rid of the plant workers, get rid of the independent fishermen, put it on factory boats, and look, this is it, and it's a terrible thing. Look, somebody doesn't have income coming in now. EI has ran out, but we got to look at the bigger picture. Next year, the year after that, if we get this done and get it done now, and stand together, it's going to create more work. We're going to sustain an independent fishery where we can move into the future, as opposed to giving it up to corporate control and a foreign country, where all the profits are going to go to a foreign country, not Newfoundland.
Yeah, look, the concept of corporate boats, I don't, for the life of me, can understand how this continues. This has been settled in court, not in the court of public opinion, but at the actual courts. So controlling agreements, I don't understand how they continue, and they should not continue. We had Jimmy Lee Foss on this program talking about he admitting he was involved in a controlling agreement. So I don't know why the court ruling hasn't stood here and been the precedent-setting ruling that it should be. Last one, John. Is there a protest coming to St. John's again on Monday?
There is a protest coming to St. John's on Monday morning.
Are you at all concerned by some of the tone and tenor of the comments on the Fisherman's Forum on Facebook? Because you've seen it as much as I have. It's gone from anger to an absolutely rolling boil of frustration. People are talking about getting aluminum shields and bats and bear spray and stuff. Are you concerned?
Yes, I'm very concerned that it has been pushed to the level that it's come to now, and if that's where it has to go, it's a terrible situation. Nobody wants to be involved. If look, I promote peaceful protest. That's my promotion. We want to be seen. We want to be heard. We do not want anybody getting hurt. But in saying that, I don't know how you're going to control the frustration level of people. I really can't comprehend the way to control the frustration that people have now. I want a peaceful protest. I want the numbers. I want the government to see. I want ASP to see the number of people that they're affecting.
What's your message to those fish harvesters who are at that level of frustration? And do you happen to know if the court injunction is still in place?
I don't know about the court injunction. I don't know if that's still in place or not. But people that are at that level of frustration, well, please don't get yourselves hurt. That's all I can say. Just don't get yourselves hurt. I would like to talk a little bit about the corporate control just before I do go.
Sure.
Directly related to Jimmy Lee Foss. What has happened to him now is they've taken the license and gave it to the bank. DFO licensing has, and which directly contradicts Section 19.3 of the Atlantic Fishery Regulations. So here's the problem: we have government regulations in place, and they're breaking their own regulations to bend to corporate control. Now, you can come up to your own conclusions of why this was done, but it's pretty obvious. Corporate control is also in the government.
John, I appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you, Paddy.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Here you go. John Efford has certainly become the face of the protest and the ongoing tie-up. You want to comment on what you heard there or talk about a topic of your own choosing, you can do it right after this break. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number one. Good morning, Valence. You're on the air.
Good morning, Daly.
Good morning.
Good morning, Patty. Yep. I listened to the budget come down, and I didn't hear one thing about senior retirement, not one thing included. Now, I'm 78 years old, and I'm not in good health. I tried to get into a retirement home here in Grand Falls, and I couldn't go in because they were going to charge me $3,033. And the government take 80, or the government allow them to take 87% of my income, and the government only pays 13% to the home, 13%. So that's very disheartening. I worked for over 50 years and never took anything away from the government, like welfare or EI or anything like that. So after all this, they say they're going to look after seniors, but they're not looking after seniors. They're taking all their money. You got to pay your money before the government pays anything. So I couldn't go in there. And here I am. I'll tell you right now, I'm stuck in a room that I'm renting and pay for my own food. So that's what the outcome is for me as a man of 78 years that worked all his life. And in the meantime, a person can be on the welfare all of his life and going into a home at the end of at his age, like me, and he can get it all free. So you think that's fair? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. So when the government talked about seniors during the most recent budget, they talked about the continuation of some of the fee reductions that had been in place. They say no new taxes, no tax increases, no new fees, those things. A couple of things that were added, I don't know if you qualify for any of these, but there was around $70 million inside the seniors benefit, so 15% increase over the next 2 years, or over the last 2 years, but that only helps about 50,000 seniors age 65 years and older. Then the income supplement has been increased, but I don't know if that impacts you as well. But you're right.
Well, that's a federal government, though. I mean, the Newfoundland government, they're not doing anything for seniors.
There is an income supplement that also include provincial monies. The GIS, you're right, the Guaranteed Income Supplement is a federal program, but there is a top-up here provincially. But even if you look across the board, folks who are retired now, and then surveys that are out there for people who are approaching retirement and having to change their plans, whether it be about the level of their investments, whether or not they actually have a pension to coincide with CPP and old age security and GIS, things have changed dramatically, and people are struggling. And I don't know exactly how it works, to be honest with you, Valence, when it comes to being in a care home, about how much money the government sits on or takes and the allowance they give, but it always felt like Go ahead, sir.
That is right. Patty is right in the policy. And I contested this from the office in Gander, and there is no way. They said I thought was way less than that, but he said 87%, and he sent me a copy of the policy, and that's what it said: 87% you have to pay. And me, I get $3,600. And they're taking $3,033, and I'm left with $330. And they say you can have your own vehicle, so you can go out once in a while and have a coffee or something and meet with people. And I can't even pay my vehicle payment. My vehicle payment is $622, and I only got $330. And out of the $330, I got to pay all my toiletry, paper towels and toilet paper and that kind of stuff. So I'm left with nothing, Patty. It's not fair.
I hear the stories all the time, sir. I don't know how people make ends meet sometimes.
Well, they don't. And now with the gas price gone up to $1.92.9 out here, what are we going to do? Sit home and fiddle our thumbs all day? That's what the government wants. That's what they want. I'll tell you one thing right now, that I will not be voting for the Liberal government this time around. And if the PCs get in, they'll probably be the same thing anyway. So it's a no-win.
It's a terrible, sad state of affairs for so many people, seniors and otherwise, right across the country and certainly here. I hear the stories all day, every day, Valence, and I wish there was a switch I could flip and make things easier and more comfortable for folks, but, you know, the reliance that we have on the government, especially in our senior years and fixed incomes and the cost of living, has certainly been battering seniors right across Canada. I appreciate your time. Would you like to say anything else this morning, Valence?
Let me say one thing. Here they are giving their own self a raise of $25,000 a year. Why don't they give that to the seniors and help them out? Even half of that would be a great help to the seniors, or allow the policy to be flexed more, so that the senior can live good in a comfortable place where he's looked after. But no, me, I got to sit here in a room and don't know where the next meal is coming from because they're taking all my money.
It is a terrible look for members of Parliament to be taking a pay raise at this moment in time. It's a bad look for even suggestion of as much as $25,000 raise. I know they haven't had a raise since 2009, and that's a mistake to, you know, save it for all those years, and all of a sudden this whopping big raise is recommended. It doesn't jive with me either, Valence. I think it's a mistake.
Yeah, and the thing is, the cost of living not going down, is certainly going up. That makes it even worse.
That it does. I appreciate your time. I wish you well. Thanks for the call, Valence.
Okay, thank you.
Take good care. Bye-bye. Before we get to the break, let's go to line number 5. Rihanna, you're on the air.
Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Today at Parsons Floral on 63 North Main Street, we'll be having Caitlin Osmond. She's a 16-year-old girl from Deer Lake. She's running for Miss Newfoundland and Labrador Achievement Award. She had the opportunity to choose a charity of her choosing to help out. She called it Carnations for Kids and Kindness, and Parsons Floral donated all the carnations to her. And today at the shop, she will be selling them from 9 to 5, and all the proceeds will be going towards the Ronald McDonald House. So it's a really good opportunity for her if she wins it, for scholarships and for her future. It's also a good opportunity to raise money for this organization.
It sounds like a great opportunity to do a good thing, all the while bringing home some beautiful floral arrangements. So what outlet is participating? I'm sorry, Rihanna? I missed that part.
Sorry?
I missed what florist is participating here.
It's Parsons Floral Shop in Deer Lake.
Okay, and it happens today?
Yes, from 9 to 5.
From 9 to 5 at Parsons in Deer Lake. I appreciate the time. Good luck with this, Rihanna.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. All right, there we go. Chance to do something nice. Just quickly before we get to the break. Now, this doesn't happen until next Tuesday, but I will probably forget between now and then. I want to say good morning, good luck, safe travels to the member of the Eastern Red Wings under-13 AAA hockey team leaving on Tuesday the 17th to attend the Atlantic Championships in Edmundston, New Brunswick. They are coached by Marcus Power, Connor Donaghy, and Andrew Cavi Kavanagh. So, quickly, members of the team: Andrew Kelly, Ben Way, Caleb Whalen, Carson Meade, Clark Lovelace, Ethan Cole, Gavin O'Toole, Harry Kennedy, Joshua House, Maddox Peddle, Matteo Witten, Max McCarthy, Max Steele, Nathan Callan, William Hickey. Go get him. I actually coached William Hickey his first year of Squirt. Terrific young hockey player. So go get him. Let's see. Let's take a break. When we come back, the Guardians of Recovery. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 2. Tina, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you on this sunny Friday?
I'm doing fine, thanks. How about you?
Good. I'm calling with some good news today.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess a little bit of background. 9 months ago, my son Ben passed from a fentanyl overdose, and some months later, we set out to form a national nonprofit called Guardians of Recovery. And the intention of that was to create a national voice and to support people with mental health and addiction issues and also their families. So we got busy creating programs, and we've been fundraising to build sober living homes and also to lobby the government to sort of change policy and legislative issues to turn the illicit crisis around. And so today I just wanted to let people know about the programs that are in place to help them out, if that's okay.
Okay.
Okay, so on Sunday, the Lantern has been super good at providing us with space so we could provide free programs. So on Sunday at 1 o'clock, we have Healing with Guitar, Healing Through Music. So if people want to come write songs, join in, learn songs, the beginners are welcome. Bring your guitar and join us at 1 o'clock every Sunday. We also have, after that, at 3 o'clock, a support group for people with addicted loved ones. So if your family member is in addiction, and it's a huge crisis. There's so many parents struggling with this. This is your place. It's also free, and so we listen, we validate, we support each other, and we help find solutions.
What sort of supports are involved in this parental program?
So what we do is we sit around, as a community with people with lived experience, and we listen to each other's stories, what's happening with your loved one, how can we help. It's a place to communicate with people who are actually going through the exact same thing. So you sort of think you're not alone, number one. And number two, you get to express yourself freely in this support group. We listen, we validate, and then we take actions on how can we support the next move for that person. So does that person need to get into, does that loved one need to get into detox and can't? Does that person need to get into hospital? Are they in jail and need to go from jail to hospital? Those are all the types of things that we've worked on. So we've helped 34 people so far get into detox or rehab or hospital. And then we've helped a couple of hundred parents now at this point through that program. So that's not it. At 5 o'clock, we also have an online course for people in recovery because some people prefer that method. So that's a place where people with lived experience who have gone through recovery facilitate that for others in recovery and want that community. And last but not least, we've started a podcast. I sent you a copy of one. You can tune in usually around 8 o'clock at night on the Guardians of Recovery group, Facebook group. I think there's 5,100 people in that group now. And the podcast airs around 8 p.m., and we discuss things like last night's show was about cannabis use disorder, cannabis psychosis. And we had 2 guests on that had experienced that and come out the other end. So it's usually inspiring stories of how to help people get through it because it's tragic. So if anybody's interested in joining those programs, thanks to the Lantern, they're free, and people can take advantage of that. And they're stacked up on Sundays. So, yeah, that's what's happening.
I appreciate the time this morning and the effort, Tina. Thanks for doing this.
Yes, and thanks for having me. I really wanted to say thank you so much to VOCM and your team because you guys do so much for our community. And also, good luck to Ben. I've watched his career flourish over the years. He's a wonderful journalist, terrific guy, and looking forward to seeing where he goes from here.
Yeah, he's a big talent and been a good friend to me, and hopefully that continues even though we won't be working in the same building. Thank you, Tina. Yes, indeed. Have a good day. You too. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Let's keep rolling here. Let's go say good morning to the tournament director of the Royal Newfoundland Regiment Memorial High School Hockey Tournament. That's Gerard Brennan. Morning, Gerard. You're on the air.
Hi, Paddy. How are you this morning?
Couldn't be better. How about you?
Yeah, good. My good. Very busy now. Getting ready to start up the tournament. Tournament starts on Monday, so we're rolling right along here now. So I just thought I'd give a call in, put a plug in for the tournament. The high school tournament. So as you're aware, it used to be the Beaumont Hamel Centennial Cup.
Yeah.
It's now the Royal Newfoundland Regiment Memorial High School Hockey Tournament. This year the tournament runs from April 15th to the 21st. We got 32 teams this year, 16 boys and 16 girls, representing 23 high schools across the province.
It's a huge event. That's what I was just going to say. I mean, when we talk about hockey tournaments, people are familiar with going to a tournament with, for the provincials, and there's 7 or 8 teams for one of the big events. 32 is huge and takes a lot of effort to make sure that it comes off seamlessly and effortlessly, because I've been involved in many of these types of events over the years, and it's not easy. No, I'll tell you right now, ask for volunteers, and we have many volunteers, and of course,
a number of organizations involved, with Hockey NL schools, those type of organizations that help us, put this off and are supportive of the tournament itself. So right now we have, a small board of directors, 8 of us, mainly all retired members of the regiment, and we've stepped up to take this tournament on. As you're aware, started in 2016. We're now into our 8th year, although it was a couple of years we didn't play because of the pandemic. But yeah, this year is our 8th year of the tournament.
Are all the games at the Paradise Double Ice Complex this year?
No, so this year is a total of 80 games. So 20 of them we played at the Glacier because we've a couple of things new to this year's tournament. We introduced a bronze medal game this year.
Okay.
And we've also extended the girls' game from initially it was 10-minute periods to 12 minutes now, stop time for the girls. So that has increased, and of course as a result of increasing those games and increasing from 12 girls teams last year to 16 this year, demand for more ice time was there. So we had to kind of expand our board. And we reached out to the Glacier, and glad to say that the Glacier came on. Paradise is still our main arena, and very supportive of the tournament, have been for the last number of years.
Is there a certain way that teams have to qualify, or is it just applied to be included and off you go?
Yeah, no, so we do have regional play down. So this year, for example, we took so many teams from Metro, the Avalons, Eastern, Central, and Western part of the island. We looked at the teams in the different regions and looked at the teams actually played in their own leagues, and we looked at results from various tournaments. So a combination of their league play and tournaments that they played in helped us determine which teams would finally get the invite. The go-ahead, because the teams applied to get into the tournament, and then based on those results, we would invite them into the tournament. And then, of course, after that was all said and done, once we got the invites, we seeded the teams and placed them into various companies.
Terrific stuff. Congratulations to you and the fellow members of the board of directors, everyone who's going to play a part there. Safe travels. Good luck to the players. I know last year the O'Donnell Patriots won on the boys' side, and the Queen Elizabeth Pioneers won on the girls' side. So hopefully another bang-up hockey tournament this year.
We're looking forward to. Excited to get started. I'll probably give you a shout next Friday. Next Friday is really when we kick it off. Is when we get into the playoff rounds on Friday night, Saturday, and of course next Friday night is the opening ceremony as well. Even though the tournament plays, start Monday, but it kicks off really next weekend.
I appreciate your time. Have a great tournament, Gerard.
All right, thanks very much, Paddy. Appreciate it.
All the best.
Cheers now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Gerard Brennan, Tournament Director of the Royal Newfoundland Regiment High School Hockey Tournament. A bouquet before the news? Sure. Line number 1. Brian, you're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy. How are you?
Doing okay. How you doing?
Pretty good. There's 2 things I'd like to say. Number 1, congratulations to Brad Guzzo. I thought he handled himself very, very well, and he represented Canada. I'm really proud of him. Now, Paddy, I spent many years in Saskatchewan, and you know that curling out there is a religion. And one thing in the major centres, Regina, Saskatoon, Prince Albert, they really pride themselves on their ice. When like the tournament in Regina, the ice was fantastic. And unfortunately, wherever they were playing this world tournament, Paddy, the ice was horrible. There was more snow on the ice after a curling game than there was after a hockey game.
Yeah, there was certainly a bit of frost, but I don't think the players complained a whole lot about the ice. The technical ice director at the Worlds was actually a Canadian. He married a Swiss woman and moved to Switzerland some years ago, but I didn't hear the players complain a whole lot. It was a bit lopsided. There was more swing on the in-turn all week than there was the out-turn.
Okay, I said that now. Another thing O.J. Simpson did.
Yep.
Bill Maher said to be a real American, you had to believe 3 things. Elvis is alive. Joe Biden stole the election, and O.J. did it. It's still amazing after 30 years the amount of people who do not believe that O.J. killed his wife and Mr. Goldman. It's almost like the Donald Trump syndrome. But I still find that amazing. even now, they don't believe OJ did it, and I think that'll go down in history. And I just want to mention those two things this morning, Paddy.
I would have thought the vast majority of people think that OJ killed his wife, Ronald Goldman.
Is that right?
I would think so. That's certainly the sentiment that I've felt over the years. I remember watching the trial. We all watched the Ford Bronco slow speed chase on the highway. Remarkable stuff. And I did see someone opine, like, I believe he did it. I know he was acquitted, but I believe he did it. And, you know, the whole, if the glove don't fit, you must acquit kind of stuff. And that all-star team of lawyers he had, including F. Lee Bailey, Johnny Cochran, and the other couple of guys. But I did see someone report yesterday that OJ can now sleep easy knowing that his wife's killer is dead.
Yeah. Bill Maher used to say that he was checking every golf course in the United States to find the killer. It's too bad. I mean, it's a part of history that we all lived through. And it just goes to show you that if you're famous, you got lots of money, you can get away with murder.
Sometimes that's absolutely true. I appreciate the call, Brian. After the news we go.
Yeah, God bless.
Take care. Bye-bye. And a quick note on OJ. I don't want to talk about O.J. Simpson, but yesterday, the Heisman Trophy Committee sent out a tweet offering condolences. Fair enough, but remarkable. There's a fellow who used to be running back for USC, went down and played in the NFL. It was found out later on that he had taken cash on the barrelhead as a collegiate player, and they took away his Heisman. And then they sent out condolences to OJ's family yesterday. Sort of strange stuff. Let's take a break. Don't go away. And welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 3. Eugene, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. Thank you for taking my call. Thank you to David, and thank you for VOCM. I know I've been a pain in the butt because I've been calling for the last 5 years on the air ambulance system here in the province, and things haven't got much better. I just want to. The only thing new I got to offer is that there has been 2 companies interested in this. In the tender for the RFP, and that would be Fitz out of Missouri, and Medivie out of Nova Scotia. Patty, we got a major problem because, the mayor of Gander, myself, and Pat White, the owner of Eva's Air, we've been all trying to get a better air ambulance system for this province. And that's for Gander, Central Newfoundland, rural Newfoundland, and Labrador. And by the look of this RFP, it's going to go downhill instead of uphill. We're going to be reduced from 5 air ambulances, which is in the system now, to 3, 1 in Goose Bay, 2 in St. John's. We're still not going to have none in Central Newfoundland, according to the RFP, with medical personnel. It does not make sense. I'll use a couple examples. I won't take much of your time because I know it's important. For example, today, if there's an emergency on Fogo Island, without a doubt, 9 chances out of 10 they take the ferry because whatever it is, they don't want to take the air ambulance. They only took it once last year, and we got a 3,000-foot airstrip there. So then, a couple, 3 hours later, you get to Gander, and there could be, and this have happened, an Eva's Air ambulance in Gander, but could not take them, would have to fly to St. John's to pick up medical personnel to fly back to Gander to get the emergency. That does not make sense. We got people that's waiting hours, patients waiting hours, unnecessary, and Labrador. And I would like for the MHA, Leila Heavens, or someone to speak up, or the opposition to speak up for us, because it's ridiculous. You're going to go from 5 air amps to 3, and yes, we're going to have coverage on the Labrador coast, which we should, of course, with the prop planes. And you remember some time ago they said Art Force One was going to be based at Gander. Well, that was just something trying to cover up the mayor, I do believe, trying to please him. But listen, right now they don't even mention that's going to happen. In the update, they don't even mention that's going to happen. And anyway, helicopter, used but once a month probably. It's not going to be much business for Gander. And Paddy, they're also talking that they might be taking the GAS, the Gander Air Services dispatch, out of Gander and putting it in St. John's. This don't make sense. Rural Newfoundland, Gander, and Labrador is going to suffer if they does what they got planned in this RFP, and it's not. Like, I'm airing Paradise right now, Patty, and I'll go into Thames there for a coffee. And I usually, in the mornings, there's 8 or 10 of us there. And even here on the Avalon, this don't make sense. Why do we need air ambulances based in St. John's with medical personnel and not where they're needed? You know, they're at the destination. That don't make sense. It don't make sense. I can't find anyone. In the last 5 years, I've been fighting this issue. I can't find anyone to say, Eugene, what are you talking about? It don't make sense what you're saying. They say it makes sense. You don't need, like right now, 4 air ambulances in the destination. You need it where it's needed most, close to the patient. And we have had patients waiting in Labrador, and we've had patients dying, waiting for an air ambulance because they got to get the medical personnel out of St. John's. Don't make sense. I mean, it's only about 30 employees. So why is it so hard to replace? You know, and like I said before, you know, there's been that has been checked out, and there've been lots of people. We had actually 30 people, applicants that was ready to go for that business in Gander, for that service in Gander. So, Patty, I don't know. I know I'm just repeating myself over and over the last 5 years, but it doesn't make sense. And if the government does this, I mean, this is not good for the Liberal government and what they're trying to approve here. It don't make any sense to anyone. Patty, what do you got to say about this? Patty, you got any response?
Well, no, the same thing I guess I've said to it repeatedly over the years is, you know, what the government will say is that they're going to locate the hub for the air ambulance here based on staffing issues. But the fact of the matter is, not everybody that is going to be working on the air ambulance needs to be someone from town. I mean, you can't tell me that there's not people in other parts of the province that can indeed be qualified staff for the air ambulance. So I'm a bit confused as to why they're so staunch on this particular one. I'll add to it. I'm not so sure why they've been told that they shouldn't publicly own and operate the fleet, whether it be helicopters or fixed-wing aircraft. I don't know why that's the case. So once again, like P3s for highways and hospitals and penitentiaries, we've gone down a very similar road here. The company will come in, they will design the fleet itself, they will man the fleet, they will finance the fleet, operate the fleet, as opposed to what we do on the ground ambulance now that we're going to consolidate all 60 contracts on the 1st of June. So I'm as confused as many people are.
Yeah, Patty, I agree with you 100%. And you know what it is? I mean, ABC. It's because they don't want to stir the pot, and they don't want to move them employees out of the Avalon, and they don't want to stir the pot with NAPE. And rural Newfoundland, Gander, and Labrador are suffering for it. And like I said, we've had people waiting and dying, waiting for an air ambulance, and it's unnecessary. Boys, I tell you, it's time that we got to wake up. This Liberal government got to go. And you know, I have challenged the minister. Minister Osborne, I've challenged the Minister of Transportation. Nobody comes on and gives an explanation. Nobody, and it's like they don't give a damn, and it's unbelievable. So the opposition needs to speak up more. I tell you that we need to speak up. This something got to happen. This got to go to the floor of the House of Assembly, and it's supposed to be finalised by the end of April. So come on, and this is what, the 12th. So I mean, anyway, Patty, thank you for your time. And again, I know I'm like a broken record, but I care about people. I'm chair to concerned citizens, and I just hope that things can change.
I appreciate the time.
Have a good one, Patty.
You too, Eugene.
Have a good weekend.
You too.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Fair enough. You know, there has been a growing trend. Look, the private sector can indeed sometimes do things more efficiently than the government, but the traditional way that we've done a variety of things, like for instance highways to be built and to be maintained, snow clearing, ice management or what have you, building and maintaining and operating long-term care facilities and hospitals and penitentiaries. It's just, I mean, it's not that long ago, like when the Tories were in power and they would float the concept of P3s, they were taken to task by everybody, by both of the other parties in the House of Assembly. Now it seems that this has just been okay, P3, that's what we're doing. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll say good morning to the Executive Director of the John Howard Society. That's Cindy Murphy. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line 2. Say good morning to the Executive Director at the John Howard Society. That's Cindy Murphy. Good morning, Cindy. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you?
Doing well. How about you?
Great, thanks. I just wanted to comment briefly about the announcement yesterday on the replacement of HMP. So we were pleased, a little surprised it happened as quick as it did, I guess in some ways because we had no advance notice, not necessarily unsurprising. But yeah, we were really pleased to hear that they're going to move ahead with the new facility. We're still a number of years out, as we all know, so that is a concern. We were really pleased to hear that there was some money in the budget announcements it was going to go towards infrastructure in the meantime for the facility. As we all know, it is definitely decrepit and needing some work as we bide our time, I suppose, until the new prison is built.
Why are you surprised? Because when they went out for what they call a request for qualifications, and there was only one group came forward, the new Avalon Correction Partners, if this is the second kick at this proverbial cat and there's only one bidder in place, what brought surprise?
I guess because we've been here before. Been around corrections for a very long time, and we've been to the brink many times, and we haven't seen the replacement happen. So we're optimistic and hopeful. At the same time, we're a little reluctant to believe, I suppose that it's going to happen anytime soon. But we have to have faith in the announcement that it will, and that it's much needed, and that it will proceed. But I guess our focus as an organization is what are we doing in the meantime? I was down there yesterday myself. Conditions have not improved. The place is falling down around your ears. It's dirty. It's filthy. There's mice. I witnessed myself yesterday. We still have difficulty getting in. Staffing continues to be a challenge down there. And while the recent announcement in the budget talked about the additional correctional officers, and I know there's been significant effort put into that, they're not even retaining some of the new hires, I'm hearing. I guess maybe it's the conditions. I don't know. I can't speak to why people are not staying after they've completed the training, but we know there has been some turnover already. And so staffing continues to be a critical problem down there. So a lot of, overtime. And when there's staff shortages, of course, then community can't enter the institution because we're all escorted when we do go in. Visits get cut down, or, the time for visits gets canceled. There's a whole range of activities that cease to happen, I said, when there's operational kinds of issues relating to staffing. So the work continues. We continue to try and advocate for improved conditions. Discharge planning is another big piece of work we've been trying to begin to talk about some more, to help prepare people for release, especially in these times of a housing crisis where people are being, exiting into homelessness. So there's a lot of work to be done, and we're while we remain optimistic, we're at the table and hopeful that we can contribute in some way.
It's when you talk about the lack of staffing and black mold in the visitation room, it's one thing to be unable to see your family or friends, which of course is not good, and it's not good for the tensions that are already at all-time high inside the walls of the pen. But then the story about the inability to see their lawyer in a timely fashion. Yeah. I'm surprised that hasn't made it to an actual legal challenge as opposed to a moral challenge, because that's enshrined inside the criminal justice system. The ability to speak with your lawyer, to plan for upcoming trials and for bail hearings or whatever the case may be. I'm surprised that hasn't gone to the next level. How about you?
Well, yeah, it's certainly a concern. I mean, people need to have access to legal representation. There's no question. And I think there's got to be some changes coming. They talk about bringing these portable trailers to create additional space down there. So hopefully that's going to happen sooner or later to free up some of that space. That is a challenge. When we get down to do assessments for some of our programs, sometimes there's no program rooms available. If we can't get into what we call the program trailer, there's no staff to supervise that. So the staffing has a profound issue right through the operations of the facility. And many fronts, and not only from a community perspective, but from, like I said, from a visiting perspective. And visits are important. We know that the supports are really important for reintegration purposes. So if you're cut off from your supports, it makes it that much more difficult when being released back into the community. There's many challenges ahead. Even if they announce tomorrow the first shovel is in the ground, we're talking at least probably 3 years out, 3 or 4. So what are we going to do in the meantime? So that's where we need to focus our efforts right now.
people, I mean, you hear this as much as I do, and it kind of leads to the political will to improve conditions and to replace a facility that was built in the 1850s, Victorian era. But for our collective public safety, reintegration plans, discharge plans, these are important, because if we talk about trying to address things like recidivism, if they come out worse they went in and don't have supports upon release, then what do you think is going to happen? They're going to be back in there. I mean, how many times have we seen going through provincial courts, you know, whether it be they broke the rules regarding their probation or their bail or whatever the case may be, but how many people are repeat offenders? How many people are, you know, either have a mental health issue or an addiction issue? So as much as people don't want to be talking about the new penitentiary to be the Ritz-Carlton, and no one's suggesting it should be, but if we don't do a good job while they're in the prison and we help them on the way out, it's just going to make public safety jeopardized even further. I don't know how people don't realize that.
I know, and you're so true. It's so true what you say there. You know, rehabilitation has to be part of any kind of correctional system, and it is in the mission of the, Department of Justice and Public Safety that's what happens. And you're absolutely right that if we don't prepare people better coming out than when they went in, then the chances are good we're going to see them on the next sentence. There's going to be further victimization. There's going to be more property crime. It's hard enough for somebody being released from custody to make it in the community following a period of incarceration, and it's because often the issues are complex. So there's low levels of education, there's low levels of employability history, substance abuse, mental health, lack of family support. I can go on and on. So if we don't try to build in some supports or some mechanism whereby people have an opportunity to do better, then the chances are good that they probably won't. And so that's in everybody's interest. It's not just okay to lock people up and assume everything is fine as long as they're locked up, because they will get released. And when they do, they're going to come and live next to you and I and everybody else in our communities, and we want them to be better than when they went in. So, there's efforts that have to be put in place. And it's not hand-holding, and it's not providing, rich living conditions. It's not about that. It's dealing with people humanely and effectively and using the resources that are available to us in the best way possible to provide some rehabilitation.
People need to be punished. There's no doubt about that. It's not about one or the other. It's about the fact that if we don't incorporate more of a thought of rehabilitation on top of the punishment, we're just simply getting our ounce of flesh, our pound of flesh. We're simply just being blood-curdling, as opposed to what's best.
Yeah, and I say all the time, the punishment is the loss of freedom. So when a person ends up in court and they get convicted of a crime, they lose their freedom is the actual punishment. So they are separated from community. They're separated from everything, and they're at the mercy of an institution and the policies that go with that. That's the punishment. But that doesn't mean that we punish them every single day by forcing them to live in deplorable conditions. And, that doesn't do anybody any good. And, of course, I always go back and say, too, it's not only the inmates who, we try to move away from that term inmates because there's such a negative connotation to it now. The residents of the correctional facilities, it's not only just about them, it's about the staff. And how do we improve conditions or working conditions for people so that they want to, enter the correctional field and as a profession and want to stay there. But when you're working in deplorable conditions all the time, there's not a lot of incentive to stick around, especially when there's other opportunities, in the public service, say. RCMP are recruiting actively, RNC are recruiting actively, and so there are other options, for people to choose.
Yeah, so, and I mean, deplorable conditions, and maybe sometimes having to work a 24-hour shift in those conditions. Last one, Cindy, before I let you go.
Yep.
So any concern with the fact that, this new Avalon Correctional Partners, they're going to put forward an RFP on the heels of calls for classifications, or qualifications, so they're going to design, build, finance, and maintain the new facilities. So very much like a private offering. In the United States, we see what it means inside the world of private prisons. Any concerns with the approach being taken?
A little, but if I had to choose of it not being taken, then the answer is I have no concerns. Sure. We're at the point where we absolutely have to do something. There's no question. And if a 3P is the way to, the only way that can make this happen, then, we have to support that process. Yes, there's no question. I mean, I just, when we talk about privatization of prisons, there is a host of problems attached with that. So hopefully, as we move forward with this P3, we'll have a better understanding of what that looks like and have some control over what that looks like. You hear about poor food and all kinds of different things when privatization happens, because it's all about money and saving money. So it will be. We're short on details. We're short on details in terms of what the new prison is going to actually look like. We had some input on design, but even since it came back from the second time around, we were invited to consult and talk about if they had to do some changes within the plan itself. What could that look like? What could absolutely is essential? What could possibly be taken off the table? So we were pleased to be part of that, and we'll be interested to see what some more detail in terms of what they're prepared to do in the interim too, because that's short on detail.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that we're going down the road in full like the American system, because that's a business. It's not about incarceration or rehabilitation. It's absolutely a business. Who do you think was lobbying for the 3 strikes you're out kind of laws in the United States? Who do you think is involved with lobbying judges and whatnot to fill their prisons? It's a really deeply flawed, broken system.
And they're the highest, that country, the U.S. is the highest incarceration rate in the world, so they lock up more people than anywhere else. And even if you don't agree with the premise of rehabilitation and that kind of piece, you need to think about the cost of incarceration. They're astronomical. I was reading something the other day about the federal, now this is the federal system, not necessarily provincial, because the provincial numbers are harder to come by. But to incarcerate a female in federal custody for every day, it's $711. I mean, that's crazy.
It's six figures a year.
Yes, absolutely it is. It's a huge amount of money. So even from a dollar and cents perspective, they can be done, oftentimes people can be maintained in the community safely under supervision and programming.
Yeah, we have to make sure high-risk offenders have to be dealt with in serious fashion. But you're right, the two most expensive things in the country are a night in the hospital or a night in the clinic.
Yeah.
And until we wrap our minds around how we reduce those expenses and the numbers of people occupying a hospital bed and a prison cell, then we're just throwing money away.
Yeah. We certainly are, and corrections is not linear. You just can't, just lock people up and out they come and everything is fine. There's so many pieces that contribute to that, and there's so many factors that contribute to criminality as well. It's not a straight line. It's not the same for everybody, and everybody's rehabilitation and re-entry into the community is different, and it has to be somewhat individualized in order to, make it successful. So, yeah, it's a complicated process, but it's one that if we don't do well, we end up all paying for.
That we do. Cindy, always appreciate your time and the work you do.
Thanks so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, Cindy Howard, the Executive Director at the John Howard Society. Will I get the volunteer fare before we get to the break, Dave? What do you think? Yes, let's go. Line number 4, Brandon Callahan, you're on the air.
Perfect. How are you, Patty?
Couldn't be better. How about you?
Oh, good.
Great.
Awesome. So I just wanted to briefly chat about the volunteer fair that's being held at the St. John's Farmers Market.
Go right ahead. Tell us about it.
Yeah, sure. So I'm actually a volunteer, and I just don't think a lot of people have heard about this event that's being held by the Community Sector Council of Newfoundland and Labrador, as well as City of St. John's. So basically, it's just a chance for volunteers to connect with all these different organizations and venues. And it's also a chance for people to kind of connect with their community and just learn more about different programs and services and stuff that different organizations are offering throughout the community. So, like, for me, the volunteer experience, I gained a lot of value, and, like, I've made some lifelong friends, and it's just sort of sad to see that we sort of lost this connection with people, for people that don't volunteer or don't feel like they don't have the time. So I just kind of wanted to get the word out there. Like, there is this fair that's happening on Tuesday, and, just come on down, have a chance to connect with others, and, possibly make some lifelong friends and, find some new type of passion.
Fair enough. The people sometimes think of volunteers as simply giving over your time to make someone else's life a little bit easier or better. But as someone who has volunteered over the years, there's a distinct feeling of gratification doing that yourself. So there's an upside emotionally for people who are actually doing some volunteer work. I do know that, I hate blaming things on the pandemic because that gets stale, but organizations, community groups across the country are struggling to find volunteers. It's harder to raise money and it's harder to get people to volunteer. In this province, we've done a great job over the years, and if you backed out the volunteer effort, whether it be dollars and cents and or contributions to society, we'd be doomed. But groups are having a hard time getting folks to volunteer. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe the concept of busy lives, or people are a bit more self-centered, or whatever it might be, but organizations right across the country are struggling mightily.
They really are. Well, I think this would be a great way for people to connect and just sort of hopefully find a love for volunteering like I have, because there's going to be like 40 organizations here. And I don't think I mentioned the time. That's Tuesday, April 16th from 10 to 6 at the farmers market.
Fair enough.
But it's just an event that I feel like can bring our community closer together. And even if you're not going to be volunteering, maybe you'll just meet some good friends and learn about a program or service that you otherwise wouldn't have heard of.
Good luck with the fair, Brandon. I'm glad you talked about it here today. It was on my list to talk about next week, but we'll get a preemptive strike here, and I'll give it another shout out next week.
Oh, awesome. Thanks so much, Patty.
Thanks for your time. Keep up the good work as a volunteer.
Yes, thank you so much. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, going to Fogo, Mayor Andrew Shea is there to talk about the upcoming by-election and municipal infrastructure projects. Tony wants to talk about education. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number one. Say good morning to the Mayor of Fogo. That's Andrew Shea. Mayor Shea, you're on the air.
Oh, good morning, Patty. How are you?
Couldn't be better this morning. How about you?
Good. First of all, Patty, I'd like to talk about an extension to our hospital.
Okay.
Which is pretty big news for us. When you get doctors to come into your hospital and you want them to stay, you have to work at it. You just don't give up on them, and you work with people in the administration to improve your hospital and to improve things. So earlier in the year, we made arrangements to have a Zoom conference call with the Premier, if the Premier is a doctor, to have a conversation with our doctor. So he agreed at the time that when he got a chance, he would come to Fogo Island. So when the election was on, we arranged that he'd come in and do a tour of the hospital. And we showed him what we needed in the hospital. We got a long-term care there, which is basically a hospital bed, a hospital room. You got people staying in a room and they eat their lunch in the room. There's no facilities. So we needed some extension to that for sure. Plus, we are a teaching hospital now. We have some students there this week, and we have some more coming next week, but they're in the early stages of their career. They're there just observing and doing things like that. But in August, we're getting probably 2 medical students who will be coming out and working with the doctors, but we don't have room for them. We need some room. So the Premier has agreed that an extension is necessary for the hospital of Fogo Island, which is a big thing for us.
So they're actually going to add to the hospital for accommodations for these students? Is that what that means?
Well, yeah, but not necessarily for the students. There's a lot of things we need more room for at the hospital. So they would rearrange some of the inside the hospital and put on an extension, and it would help out with the long-term care. Because the long-term care basically is run by the hospital now. The nurses and that do it, and that could become like a long-term care with its own administration run it. Which would make it better for the doctors and all the hospital and the nurses and everything, right?
Which is interesting because, certain communities were taking the bull by the horns, and it was not only about rate of pay and amenities in the community, but some of it also came with conversation regarding housing. Like in Bonavista, Vista, they were going to offer service lots, I think, for $1. So some of those things, communities really shouldn't have to be fighting the good fight to get healthcare professionals. But I suppose when you see the needs of your citizens, then you do what you got to do.
Yes, you got to do what you got to do, and if you get doctors, you want to keep them, and you got to make it like some of our equipment over the years has vanished. Like we can't do certain tests and things like that. They're not very expensive to buy, so we're also getting some of that return. Instead of going to Gander to do a test, now we'll be able to do it at our hospital. And that saves time for the people in Gander working at this, and it saves a lot of back and forth for the people of Fogo Island. We're improving the system. But we are also working on housing too, Paddy. We're working, and hopefully we'll have an announcement soon on some projects with housing for Fogo Island, because we're in the same situation, right? But this is a major announcement for us. We really need this.
And so I'm not trying to get out in front of your pending housing announcement, but is this taking opportunities to take advantage of things like the Housing Accelerator Fund, or is there something different that you've got up your sleeve?
Oh, we've formed our own special committee. We have a non-profit organization formed, and we're dealing with the federal government and the provincial government on different things, right? And we're hoping to get some good news soon,
Fair enough. And I said the Mayor of Fogo, I know full well you're the Mayor of Fogo Island. I appreciate the time this morning. Did you want to pass a quick comment about the by-election for Fogo Island Cape Friels?
I got two more quick announcements, and I'll mention the election.
Sure.
We also got $1.3 million for the new pump house in Seldom. When Seldom water was installed, was put in, they didn't include the fish plant. So when the fish plant comes on in the summer, people, you can't get a shower, you can't brush your teeth, some houses, not all houses. So we're going to upgrade the pump house. In Fogo, we got $50,000 doing alternate. We're doing a study on the water supply because the water is really bad with a lot of silt in that in it, and it can't be fixed. We can fix it for about $10 million and $100,000 a year to keep it going. So what we got the money for is look, see if we can find an alternate supply of water. And in Jobit's Arm, because of the changing climate, the water supply in Jobit's Arm went dry 2 years ago. We had to get emergency pumps flew in. So we're doing a study on that to see if we can put in a dam or just put in a pumping system, because there's other ponds really close where we can get the water to flow into that. So that's two projects that we got. Well, getting on to the election, Paddy, I'm a big supporter of Dana, because Dana's been in the district for 8 years. And the last 4 years have done a lot of work for her, a lot of work with her and with the council and things like that. And right now, I think she's the only candidate that got any experience. She's got a lot of government experience. She's worked with most everyone. She's familiar with all the people in the district. She's got integrity, and I think some people are talking about change, Paddy, but there's no need of change this time. Change seems to be because, when Tuesday morning comes, our premier is still the same, Mr. Andrew Fiore, and we have a Liberal government, so there's no need to change. She's the best candidate. We need more women in government, I think, too. And I don't think we should vote for anyone because of anything like that, whether you're a woman or man or whatever. But the thing is, I think she's the best candidate for here, and I think she can do us the best good. So that's why I'm 100% behind Dana.
Of course, Dana is Dana Blackmore, running for the Liberal Party. She was the assistant to the late Derek Bragg, is my recollection off the top of my head. The other candidates are Jim Gill, running for the NDP, and Jim McKenna, running for the PCs. Generally speaking, over the years, municipal leaders haven't been very vocal about supporting one candidate, one party or another, because whoever wins is going to be someone that you have to work with and hopefully will become an ally. So does that ever worry when you go ahead and put your support behind one candidate or another?
No, Paddy, because this election is only going to last 16, 18 months because we're going to have a full-fledged, this is not like a election that's going to be for 4 years. We're going to be elected here now for 16 months. And not only that, but we got a good relationship with the government. We've like the song says, I fought the law and the law won, but we fought the law and we won. And we got our hospitals back in order, and now we got our bank coming. So we've got a good working relationship with this government, and I'd like to see it extended for the next 16 months. Very quickly, what's the status of the relationship between you and the credit union? When are they going to be up and running? I expect early fall. We're in the process now of working at the bank because the town owns the bank building. Yeah. So within the next few weeks, we're going to be doing renovations, and in June they're coming out for a meeting. With the people to tell them what exactly they can expect, and they're meeting with the businesses. And right now they're looking at staffing and doing the necessary work to set the bank up. And hopefully by early fall, September, October, we'll be a business. And the town owns the building because Scotiabank gave you the building, right? Yes, we negotiated with them as a donation. They donated to us, and they donated it, and we gave them a certificate from our non-profit organization for it, and we own it outright. I appreciate the time this morning, Mayor Shea. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. The Mayor of Fogo Island is Andrew Shea. And, of course, the advance polls were opened on Monday, run from 8 to 8 in 4 different locations. By-election day is Monday, April 15th. Voting takes place from 8 to 8. Let's take a break. Tony, appreciate your patience. When we come back, we're talking education with Tony. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Just very quickly, traffic note. Dead moose in the median. Location is westbound from St. John's, just past the Salmon line. Exit before Avondale exit on the left in the ditch. So be careful. Let's keep rolling here. Let's go to line number 3. Tony, you're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy.
Good morning.
I hear you giving out there a while back about the students, about how they're not basically quitting in high school, but right now the teachers, I don't know why they get their hands full. I mean, you got wall-to-wall desks once again, and before they brought in full-day kindergarten, they cut 244 teachers. I mean, then a year or two after they decided, they brought it in, then they decided, we don't have enough of teachers. I mean, the pressure they put on these teachers is unreal. And, I mean, they brought us right back when the Liberals were in power first. I mean, we got wall-to-wall desks. We got students in there who needs extra help, and they can't. And I don't know how they does it. They can't. Then all the students got to pay the price because of it. And the teachers must be so frustrated because they can't do what they want to do. And, I mean, it's just unreal what's going on here. I mean, we got everything is in a mess. We got, like I said, our teachers, they're wall-to-wall desks right now once again. They put everything back about 20 years. And, I mean, there's no help. Then they cut the grants for university students, so now they got to pay more money once again. So they're basically, and they never come out with anything in the budget for to hire new teachers or anything else. I mean, it's just unreal what they're doing and getting away with. I mean, it's just, we got our fishery in a mess. They got our
Let's stick with education for a second. So the class size and class composition has not changed under either of the successive governments. It's been a problem for a long time. It's not since 2015. It predates that for sure. We've been talking about education on this show. Class size, class composition, forever. Well, certainly since I arrived here. I don't know about how much they talked about it prior. So that concept and how the student allocation formula has only changed marginally in the last decade. So this, like everything else, like healthcare, like housing, these have been issues that have been brewing and growing and getting worse, exponentially so, for decades.
But what it is right now with the teachers, when they got in there first, this is when the Conservatives took over in 2003, they were same thing, wall-to-wall. I think it was 32 how many desks you could get in the classroom. Then when the PCs took over, they were hiring teachers. They went down from 18 to 25 in the classroom. And now they're bounced back to the same thing. Now they're bounced back once again to the wall-to-wall. I mean, they cut 244 teachers. I mean, that was teachers that was there was teaching. I mean, they were looking after half. There was only kindergarten was only half a day then. Now it's full time, and they cut all them teachers. And I knew the young girls that went to school for teaching, and they had to change careers because they weren't hiring anyone. I mean, this is what we're going on with. I mean, the students haven't got a chance. Once again, it was the same thing back then. There was high school students who, when they got of age, they were quitting. And when PCs got in there, they started going back to university because they had something to look forward to. They started creating jobs and everything else. But now, the same thing. They got nothing to look forward to, so they're just quitting. I mean, it's just, and they're gone right back. Like I said, they're gone right back now where they were too. And the same thing with healthcare. Same with healthcare, they hired 160 professional for healthcare, doctors and psychologists and everything. And now they're enforcing. I mean, how many times have I heard it on your radio station where the doctors and everything were phoning in, or people looking after them, they were saying about how disrespected they are in the healthcare system. And I mean, I know doctors who's quit. I mean, they're overworked, they're burnt out, and they just can't do it. And they went to government with the solution, and the government wouldn't listen to them. So, I mean, this is what we got. We got a government here. Listen, nobody paying out the highest kind of contracts to their buddies and their people away. And right here, we're the ones paying the price. I mean, we got a need for surgery. Who got to wait now 2.5 to 3 years just to get in. And it was the same thing back then. They brought it down to basically you didn't have to wait hardly any time. The same thing with hip surgery. Now it's the same thing. I mean, you got to take 3 years. Like, it's unbelievable. And then I hear the same thing with the phone open line. I mean, what they got to do, they're crippled. They can't get around. I got a relative now waiting for knee surgery and hip surgery and can't get in now for about 3 years. Can't get around once again. I mean, it's just unbelievable what this government's doing. I mean, you can't. We cannot afford to have them in power. What they've done to this people and this problems. I mean, you got the fishery upside down. You got everybody phones in. You got everything in a crisis. And I mean, we can't. I mean, you got no doctors anywhere. You got these spending a fortune when they should be putting on doctors here, and they forced. I mean, same thing with the forced radiation therapists out. They were getting $10 less an hour, and now they're coming out with all kinds of grants. Now they're going to pay more, up to $500,000, but yet we couldn't pay our own. Now they're going to recruit them. The same thing, like you got Siobhan Cody comes out in the budget and said we recruited 450 nurses, and yet Tom Osborne comes out and said we recruited 700. So which one is it? Our housing is a mess. The seniors doing without eating, can't afford to pay their bills. I mean, this is what this government has done. And then we're only going. If anybody votes for them, we're only going to get worse. If there's any such thing as getting any worse.
You're blaming cost of living issues on the provincial Liberals? Really?
Well, when they got in power, they put the taxes up over 300%, 300 taxes and fees on people. You got right now. Then you had all of a sudden after a year we going by, you had business start to shut down because they couldn't afford it. You got half the business down Water Street closed. The other ones you talk to and they're saying they're just hanging on by the skin of their teeth. You got the Village Mall in there, that's empty. You got everywhere you go, you got business closed down. I was looking at the other day, I was driving around, there was two more on the one street alone, they were driving, shutting down. I mean, everywhere just closed down. I mean, just they can't afford to keep open because the taxes are so high. I mean, I remember having big protests up there when they put up this 300 tax and fees. They even put a tax on sure you had to live in Newfoundland. I think it was $9 a year. You had
a cover charge. That's crazy stuff. I appreciate the time, Tony. I'm going to take another call before the break.
Okay, so one thing I got to finish with, Paddy. We don't need windmills. We got enough air coming out of the Liberal Party, so keep it going. Okay. You have a good weekend.
You too, buddy. All the best.
Bye.
Okay, let's keep going. Let's go to line number 1. Jean, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Paddy.
Hi.
I want to talk about the fact that there's no brain injury association in Newfoundland. Halifax seems to have, or Nova Scotia seems to have all these things. Newfoundland don't have anything anymore. No brain injury association. No one to help anyone with a brain injury to file any kind of claims that they need to file. And, of course, they're not up to it. And if they have no one in the family, which a lot, or some people don't, I don't know how many there are that don't, but seniors and that even, they everything seems to have to be done by computer today. And Great West Life, if you're putting in a claim, apparently they're not taking any paper copies now. It seems like there's no way to turn.
The Brain Injury Association, that's a really troubling story. So they closed their doors last fall, and they said because of financial struggles. So they had a couple of full-time staffers, and I don't know if they offer any assistance on any programs any longer, but you're right. When they ran out of money and they couldn't raise any, they closed the doors last, I guess it was October.
Yeah, I mean, this terrible. I mean, Newfoundland is going through such hard times. Our taxes are to the hilts. People have 1/3. Anyone that's working usually got about 1/3 of their check gone before ever they see it. And then every time they go to a supermarket or any place, it's easier to name the things that there are no taxes on rather than the things that there are taxes on these days. And there don't seem to be any help for anyone.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the issue is between taxes and the Brain Injury Association, but you're right. The amount of tax I pay, the cost of living, the price of my groceries, the cost to fill up my vehicle, these are all so far out of control, it's hard to see when they're going to come back to earth.
Yes, and if they don't start to come back soon, I suspect Newfoundland is going to go bankrupt because, I mean, there's no other way out. I mean, people are already, they're not struggling, they're pushed to their limit. And, I'm just lost for words as to how anyone with a brain injury are supposed to file a form now with Great West Life or...
Yeah, I do know that...
get paid for...
the Brain Injury Association is still trying to get relationship with corporate Newfoundland and Labrador to try to reopen their doors. I mean, I wonder would some of the therapists that deal with people who have had brain injury, say at the Miller Centre, occupational therapists or physical therapists, whether or not they can play a role in helping people navigate things like insurance claims. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there.
Yes, well, he's been through all this. Actually, he had carbon monoxide poisoning, and it's over a year, and it's a year and 3 months now, and it's been quite the battle, let me tell you.
Can I ask how he was exposed to carbon monoxide to get the poisoning? What happened?
A work truck.
Okay.
He had a work truck, and the truck caught on fire.
Oh, my.
And it was doubted. He called his supervisor, and he said, told him what had happened. My husband was there at the time, and he smelt it. Because he didn't realize even, my son, when he came in the driveway, that it was on fire. And they got some snow, and they doubted it. And he phoned his supervisor right away and told him. And he said, well, wait till you take it the next time you come to work and see how it is then. So he done that, and when he went to work, he got out on his runs and checked it 3 or 4 times. And the last time he checked it, it was all on fire again, and he tried to doubt it again, and his supervisor came and picked him up. And he went back, and they wanted him to take another truck. Are you there, Paddy?
I'm listening.
Yeah, they wanted him to take another truck and go with it. And he said he wasn't feeling good. He said, I'll turn on the truck and I'll go inside and see how I feel, or just take a couple minutes to see how things. He wasn't feeling well. And anyway, the supervisor said, no, you get in that truck and you go right away. And he said, no. He said, I'm going home. And he went home, and he didn't go back to work for a couple of days. And when he went back to work, another supervisor was on and advised him to go to the health science, where they immediately put him on oxygen. He was on it for most of the day, and anyway, it progressed from there.
So ultimately, a brain injury. Jean, I appreciate your time. I wish you and your family well.
Okay, thank you, Paddy.
You're welcome. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, it is a problem for people that were dealing with the Brain Injury Association, some of the programs that they offered. I wonder what the status is. I know Cletus Flaherty was the chair of that board, whether or not they were able to get back on track. We'll see if we can reach out to Cletus. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're talking the fishery, and Jackie Hyde wants to talk about a locked-out Facebook account. One of my friends, an up-and-coming sports announcer, young Seth Hyde. Don't go away.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line. Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
Welcome back to the program. And where am I going? David Williams. Let's go to line number 5. Sure. Good morning, Ryan Cleary. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty, to you and your listeners. It's Ryan. It's not Cheryl. Did you say Cheryl?
I said Ryan.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know how I heard Cheryl.
I was going to say Shania Twain, but I've known you for a long time.
Thanks for taking the call.
No problem.
Patty, I'm calling in with a few points I want to make about the fishery crisis that we're in again this year. Of course, every year is a crisis for the inshore so long as a cartel exists and government allows that cartel to exist. Patty, the first point I'd like to make is about John Efford and his crew. I heard John on earlier speaking with you, and I heard what you had to say yesterday in your preamble. And of course, news broke on VOCM yesterday that Efford and his crew are facing sealing charges. My issue is not with that. My issue is that the information, according to VOCM, was leaked by a provincial government official. So the point I want to make is, from my perspective, that stinks to high heaven. To me, that says the provincial government is trying to, or has been trying to, discredit Efford as the leader of the protest movement. This is the same provincial government that has stalled, that has delayed, that has failed to deliver on free enterprise in any way. Now, to my knowledge, as of yesterday, and I heard John speak about this earlier too, not one single independent outside buyer has been approved to come in here. It's been over 3 weeks since Loveless issued an expression of interest. I don't see any new competition here to break the cartel. Absolutely none, Patty. I tell you what I do see. There will be boats leaving for the fishing grounds this weekend, and once they catch their crab, they will steam across the Gulf to the mainland to sell their product for $4 a pound to mainland buyers. Now, I know that will happen, Patty, because the co-op that I'm part of is helping to make it happen, is brokering the deal. The only way to get competition here, Patty, is to force it, and we're forcing it. Hopefully, this will drive up the price here at home. But the bottom line is we've got to force it, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We have that. The co-op. I know there are other boats leaving as well, but I can tell you definitively that the co-op, we have one boat that's leaving. The price on the mainland is $4 a pound.
Someone sent me a receipt yesterday, maybe the day before. It was at $3.25.
Well, and good for them for getting $3.25. But the buyer that we're talking to is $4. So when the boys arrive on the mainland, I don't even want to say when they're landing, but when they arrive, the price that's negotiated is $4.
Okay, fair enough. If they can get $4, well, good for them. So, do you happen to know if that buyer is one of the three applicants here?
No, I was speaking to other applicants, to other mainland buyers that put applications in, but they never heard back. And I certainly heard frustration in their voice. The buyer that we have, well, I don't want to give away anything that's going to reveal the identity, but no, they're dealing with to get around the applications. When a boat has a belly full of fish. If they land in Newfoundland, it has to be unloaded and processed at Newfoundland. What we're doing is once the boat leaves, the boat's not coming back to Newfoundland. It's going directly across the Gulf and going to land on the mainland, unload, and get that $4 that I spoke about.
And fair enough. So how do you think that impacts the so-called solidarity of the tie-up? Because I've heard from someone who has a very small quota, and I promised that I'd keep their name out of it, and he wants to go. And he wants to go now. And he wants to continue his relationship with the buyer that he's had for years and years and years, but he's afraid. So what do you think this means for the solidarity of the tie-up?
The tie-up is there. The solidarity of the tie-up is there. I spoke to John Efford about this via text. The bottom line is we have to force competition, Patty. And getting that $4 on the mainland, that's a wake-up call to the buyers here. If you can get $4 on the mainland for good quality product, you should get $4 in Newfoundland and Labrador for good quality product. It shouldn't be a two-tiered payment system where harvesters across the Gulf are treated one way and harvesters in Newfoundland and Labrador are treated another. We need to force the hand, and that's exactly what we're doing. Patty, I know you got limited time. It's Friday. You got other callers. I got a second point, and it's about Jimmy Lee Foss. You've had him on your show. I know you've spoken to him in other times, and John also spoke about him earlier. He's that fisherman from Lassie who purchased a $3.8 million enterprise in 2022, got a bank loan from the CIBC, co-signed by Quinlan Brothers. Jimmy Lee confessed this past January to being in alleged controlling agreement. Got to watch what we say here. It's alleged. Controlling agreements are illegal. A controlling agreement means that someone other than the fisherman controls the catch or the quota. So in this case, DFO, Conservation and Protection, they read Jimmy Lee's rights. They started an investigation. They executed a search warrant. The investigation continues. At the same time, DFO's licensing branch, another branch of DFO, they made a decision just a few days ago that will revert Jimmy Lee's license to the receiver, to CIBC. Jimmy Lee fears that the license is going to end up back in the processor's control. But my point here, and John again made it earlier, is that DFO appears to be breaking its own Atlantic fisheries regulations that state a commercial license shall not be issued if it's involved in a controlling agreement. So with an ongoing investigation, why did DFO release the licenses? And where does that leave Jimmy Lee's case? And what, Patty, what does that tell other harvesters who may be involved in controlling agreements and want out? From my perspective, DFO must explain its actions, and inshore harvesters would take heed to mind every single word of their answer.
Do you happen to know, based on conversations with the harvesters that you were involved with in the co-op and the buyers up along, at $4 and the cost for the additional steam across, what's the net gain?
A profit.
Oh, do we happen to know what? Someone must have done the math.
For a boat with RSW, that's refrigerated seawater, cooling capacity, the whole 9 yards, to make the steam across the Gulf. If you have harvesters here that's saying they want $3 to break even, and the price that our enterprise owner going across the Gulf is getting $4, well, I'll tell you, he's going to make a lot more by doing that. And again, the point here is if you can get $4 across the Gulf, you should be able to get $4 in Newfoundland and Labrador. It shouldn't be a two-tiered system, treating Newfoundland and Labrador harvesters like garbage, paying another a higher amount on the mainland. Not good enough, Patty.
Well, I was just wondering if someone did the back of the cocktail napkin math about, okay, so $4 versus $3, the cost of steam over and back, whether it be I'm up 40 cents, 50 cents, 60. I don't know. I was just wondering if someone had done the math. That's all.
I just know that obviously nobody wants to make that steam. It takes away from fishing time and whatever else, but it's advantageous enough to make that steam across the Gulf. So.
Fair enough. And when that actually happens, I'll be happy to have a chat with you or one of the harvesters, even if they want to do it anonymously, because we're not trying to get anyone in any sort of peril at the wharf, but I'm just curious how this is all going to play out. I do know that there are some pretty furious fish harvesters that are going to make their way to the city on Monday. I don't know if you follow along in the forum, and I don't follow it all day, every day, but it comes up in my feed a lot, and some of the commentary now is wild.
Well, people are getting heated because the provincial government made promises. The protest went on. The protest ended. There was a letter a week or so later. Promises were made, but at the end of the day, Patty, the promises were not kept. That's not good enough. I mean, you can't look in the faces of fishermen and say one thing, turn around and do another. I mean, the fishermen can tell when you're full of it.
And we'll see how it all unfolds on Monday. I appreciate the time this morning, Ryan. Thanks for the call.
Patty, I apologize. Can I make just one more point?
Quick one.
I called about this last week. So the Premier told the fishermen on Fogo Island last week that the request to change those regulations under the Fisheries Act that compelled the price-setting panel to choose one formula in its entirety, and they did. They went with the ASP formula. But the Premier said that request was made by Greg Priddy himself. As far as I know, Priddy hasn't been asked why he did that, why he asked for a change in the regulation that led to the ASP formula in its entirety being forced down the throat of inshore fishermen. I think that Priddy still needs to answer that question. He needs to come clean. Who's telling the truth there? Exactly what happened? Again, Patty, it's not good enough. The mixed messages, the poor communication, it's embarrassing. It's ridiculous.
I'm happy to ask Mr. Priddy that exact question. No problem.
I know you would, Patty, so thank you very much, sir.
Appreciate your time. Have a nice weekend.
Take care. You too.
You too. Bye-bye. All right, Jackie Hyde, you're next. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 2. Good morning, Jackie Hyde. You're on the air.
Hi, Patty. How are you this morning?
Top shelf this morning. How about you?
Oh, not too bad. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
Seth has hit a bit of a roadblock. As you know, you're a big supporter of Seth and everything he's done. And the second last week of February, We were at Twin Rinks streaming a game, regular Tuesday night for us, and it was a U13 AAA game, and we were a bit relieved that night because the parent who normally plays the music in the background wasn't there. So Seth and I could relax because a lot of his live streams would get dinged for a copyright infringement for the music, the ambient music playing in the background at the various arenas where he streams from. So Seth and I kind of took a little breath and said, okay, great, we can relax.
Jackie, just one second before we go any further, just so people know what we're talking about, who we're talking about. Seth Hyde is a local young man who has grown into a really burgeoning sportscaster. Started doing some games up at the DF Barnes Arena for the Avalon Celtics, and now that has grown exponentially. He's actually called a pro game. He's been part of the NHL Youth Committee, been to a couple of the All-Star games. He's really got a career in front of him. People like TSN sportscaster James Duthie has recognized Seth, so that's who we're talking about.
Yes, and he's been up in the booth with Chris Cuthbert. They have quite a relationship. So everybody's been so supportive, Patty. Like, this has been like a dream come true for Seth, and it's something that he wants to pursue as a career. So it's very important to him. But more than that, for Seth, he loves the connection with the people, especially the grandparents who watch and all that kind of stuff, aunts and uncles and family, and he loves meeting them in the rinks. So this shutting down of his Facebook account has really affected him because it's like he dropped off the face of the earth. So when we were doing that stream, we got shut down, and what normally happens is we put in an appeal, and they put us back up. But this time, the account got disabled. His whole account got disabled. So we drafted a letter and sent it to him. But the problem is we're just getting responses from bots. We don't get to talk to an actual person. So his account has been disabled since the end of February. We've gone to a new streaming platform, so he hasn't missed a beat. It's just that he feels like a lot of the community who's been with him since the beginning aren't aware of where he's gone. He's on other social media, which his age group are, well aware of, but it's the people, Patty, our age and, older who follow him faithfully and support everything he does. He's doing a lot of work with charities. This is his busy season, and it's like nobody knows where he's gone. He's just disappeared. And we're at a loss. If we could talk to somebody, we would never stream on the platform again, but we'd like to have his memories back. Like, his whole journey with this broadcasting, experience has been really, captured on Facebook. We go back and look at, we did go back and look at some of his first games, and his voice is so, he was so young. And it's the nostalgia of it. He has hundreds of hours of game footage that's gone. All these connections. He had almost 3,000 followers. And he hasn't been able to explain why or where he's gone or what he's up to. And it's really sad.
It's awful. I mean, because that's an awful lot of content, that captures his growth as as aspiring sportscaster. Is just terrible. So you say you're trying to put forward another appeal, and all you're getting is the so-called bot reactions?
Yes, and I have a very good friend who's a lawyer, and I was so upset with it. Again, losing that connection with everyone, and we crafted a response, explaining that Seth he never adds music to any of his streams. And we've been in rinks. He's been flown to the mainland to cover tournaments, and we never have control over the music or anything, right? So it's not like it's something we're adding. It's not a value add to what he's doing. We have no control over it, and we can't get to explain that to anybody at Facebook because you can't get a real person. And it's even harder now to get a contact even. And we've tried everything, and we just get a bot response every time.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. I wish I knew where to point you. There's a couple of people that we deal with here who are tech people that we have for technological hits on the radio, whether it be on the VOC Morning Show or whatnot. I will send your concern along to a couple of those folks to see if they have any idea what you can do.
Yes, because it says disabled, and then the countdown is on how many days you have. So we're getting down close now, and we would just be happy just to have that presence back so that we could communicate with his followers and share what he's up to. And we respect copyright laws, and hence why we never use music in our productions.
Yeah. I know. I mean, that's just so patently unfair, and it doesn't even make any sense. So, like, if I do a radio hit from the Rogers Centre and all of a sudden some music plays in the background while I'm talking, I don't get dinged. So
exactly.
This is really quite silly.
But see, and there's when you go in an arena now, since COVID, a lot of parents are streaming the games, right, for family. I mean, it helps, right, especially for elderly people who can't be there, parents who are traveling due to work. They want to see their kids play. And what I find is that Seth was getting 1,000 views for a stream, on a Tuesday night from Twin Rinks. So I think it's because he had followers that they kind of zeroed in on him. Do you know what I mean? Like, it seems like as soon as we'd go live, they'd be all over him.
Yeah, and it's all very confusing, and it's really disheartening because that's a library of stuff that if he's unable to retrieve it, then that's going to be a real loss. I'll see if I can get someone that can help you figure this one out, because there's got to be a way.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not a tech-savvy person, so, it's not my area, but I know that you have a wealth of contacts, and your listeners are, always so willing to help. It would be great.
Yeah, let's see what we can figure out, Jackie. I'll contact you directly if we can find someone who can help you and Seth.
Yes, okay, that would be fantastic, Patty. Thank you so very much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Say hi to Seth for me.
I will. He's calling the U9 game tonight. He started last night with the U9 Novice Select, so the DF Barnes is pumping.
One of the best tournaments of the year, regardless of the age.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, terrific. One of my nephews is playing this year, too. So that's
cool. Awesome. Okay, cool.
Thank you, Jackie. I'll be in touch.
Okay, thanks, Patty. Take care. Have a good weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, that U9 Select tournament up at the DF Barnes Arena is absolute madhouse. They sell out. Like, the barn will be absolutely full to the rafters to watch the under-9s. Terrific stuff, and they treat them like they're pros. I mean, the dressing rooms get set up like they've never seen before, for the home team, for instance, only because I've worked at that club. The players will come in for the first time to see the setup, all the jerseys hung and the socks out and their coats and all these things that are just making it really unique and a huge event. So I'm going to go catch a couple of games for the weekend. Why not? Let's take a break for the newscast. When we come back, Dave is there to talk about carbon monoxide poisoning, and the PC member for Exploits is Playman Forsey. He's there too. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 1. Dave, you're on the air. Hi, Dave.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Thank you for taking me on there.
No problem.
My name is David, and I got to think, following this lady that just called her not too long ago about her son and carbon monoxide. And kind of know what she's going, not kind of know, I know what her son and her family is going through, because I myself, since 2011, struggling with this carbon monoxide poison that happened to me while I was working on a heavy hour, a 785, rather a 789 out in Fort McMurray. And to say the least, carbon monoxide, the most reason why I want to get on is to make aware of people to if you get into any kind of piece of machinery that was heavy equipment, especially that was running for a while, to make sure the windows are cracked.
Yeah, I mean, certainly helpful advice. It can be quite serious. People think carbon monoxide poisoning, well, I get dizzy or get sick or feel weak or get a headache. But, I mean, carbon monoxide poisoning can kill you.
Well, I've been very lucky. I thank the good Lord that there was 2 fuel service people that was on site, and and they apparently came to my rescue. I wish I could tell you, Patty, what happened in right words and in because I really don't know. You know, I go by what people is telling me and stuff like that, and it's terrible.
Obviously it can be, and this lady, her struggles, are beyond the fact that her son has been affected by carbon monoxide poisoning, but now nowhere to turn with a formal association like the Brain Injury Association, so I totally get where she's coming from.
Well, that's what it affects the most, right? And the story's too long. I'll never be on the air here long enough, not even 3 shows, to tell you what really happened and stuff, and still happening it today. I would love to get in contact with this lady and or lady's son rather, and there should definitely be something here in Newfoundland to help people like us, you know what I mean?
So when it's initially found, like whoever found you, so they administer pure oxygen for a number of hours to try to combat the carbon monoxide. But for ongoing treatment, what is done? Like, I mean, do people use hyperbaric chambers, or what happens?
I myself came back to Halifax, and I went through this program there. And this program, well, to say the least, I have to be thankful. It helped me. I'm still here, obviously. So the long-term effect is 100% down. Tell the truth, because it's unending. Trouble sleeping, trouble thinking. Trouble. Well, there's so many different kinds of things that happens in the run of a day that you're trying to, in my case, trying to think back since 2011. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
And it's terrible, and because when I went to this clinic there in Halifax, I was talking to people. In essence, there was a gentleman and his wife. Both of them were carbon monoxide poisoning their house by apparently their furnace, whatever. And they I haven't been in contact with them since, but I hope and pray to God that they feel a little bit better, because even though I was bad, it sounded like they were a lot worse than what I was.
Yeah, it can be really quite serious. And I don't know if that lady would like to speak with you or her son, but we'll reach out to them on your behalf.
Well,
okay, Dave. So Dave Williams just told me Dave just gave her your number, so expect a call.
God bless your heart, and thank you very much, and have a safe weekend, everybody.
The very same to you. Thanks for your time, Dave.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Let's keep rolling. Let's go to line number 3. Say good morning to the PC member for exploits. That's Pleeman Forsey. Pleeman, you're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy.
Good morning.
Good morning. Paddy, I did want to talk about the by-election this morning in Fogwell and Cape Friels. First of all, Paddy, Jim McKenna is PC candidate down there, of course. I've known Jim for quite some time. He's a dedicated gentleman to that area, and I'm certainly sure he'll make a great MHA for that district. And I must say, I think he's garnering great support at this point. But, Paddy, I've spent some time in the area in the past couple of weeks, actually, myself, and I'm hearing some of the issues in the district, and I'd like to touch on a couple of them if I could.
Sure.
And one, of course, is the fishery. The fishery is a big issue in that area. That's most of their livelihoods down that way, and they just want to go fishing. Last year, Paddy, at this point, the government was going to have plans in place for this year, which we all know, Paddy, that didn't happen, and now we're still at the same stance. Healthcare again. We're hearing a lot of issues on healthcare. Trying to keep their emergency open down that way, and yet all we're hearing is diversions. Crown lands again, another big issue. We're hearing stories of Crown lands, same stories that you and I have talked about on your show, Paddy. We're hearing the same stories down there. But the Liberals keep coming with the pork barrel politics, pork barrel promises, and I can relate to those promises, Paddy, because in 2019, 2021, they made promises for the 24-hour emergency service here in here in Botwood. That's still not done, but yet they're making healthcare promises down in that district, Patty. It is just, just to see that happening, it's... it's okay to become with promises, Patty, but at some point, they got to act on it.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that they're able to bring a couple of doctors into Fogawala, and Mayor Shea said this morning a couple of med students are coming. They're going to accommodate by expanding the hospital itself. So the question would always be, if the Liberals are on the wrong track, what do the PCs have up their sleeve? Because if we're talking about recruiting and retaining healthcare professionals, and we do know, based on conversations with doctors and nurses and other healthcare pros, to be able to bring someone into work in rural Newfoundland, considering that there's all kinds of bonuses on the table for a variety of professions to do exactly that. So what would you do different?
Well, Patty, you have to sit down with all the stakeholders involved, in the communities themselves, and make it attractive so that we can bring healthcare professionals into those areas and make it comfortable for them. We have to get into schools, we have to get into the universities, and make plans for young educators to come out and be able to stay in their own province. We keep them here. We could certainly increase the healthcare situation that way. But it's Patty. It's just the promises that they're making down that way again now, and to see that happening. It's at some point. You have to act on those promises and make things happen. It's like the healthcare that we just mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, actively recruiting the captive audience we have in our own healthcare schools, in nursing or otherwise. I'm still at a bit of a loss as to why the offers to nursing students were by and large for full-time, but temporary full-time as opposed to permanent full-time. I don't know why that would be. People are trying to convince me it's about benefits package, but I don't think there's a difference in the benefits packages. I assume that the government would like to have permanent offers in place, but not offering them for some unknown reason. I just don't quite understand that one. And consequently, some of the nurses are thinking, I'm getting a permanent offer up along, so I'm taking that. I just don't really understand why we haven't gone down the permanent road, especially when we talk about the casual nurses. If the province was willing to put forward a $3,000 bonus to move you off the casual list to the permanent list, then what's the rationale for not offering permanent jobs in the nursing school? I really don't understand that one.
Yeah, I know, and the nurses union certainly has concerns with that, Patty, and they need to sit down with those people, and certainly are in a situation there that's happening. But Patty, like I say again, down in Fogawala and Cape Friels, there seems to be a change. People want change down that way. They've heard the promises. They're tired of the promises, and they're looking for a change down that way. And I'm sure Jim McKenna will make a great MHA for that area, and and I'm sure Jim will do some great work for that area.
And we'll see what the results will be. I guess we'll find out pretty quickly after the polls close at 8 o'clock on Monday evening. Anything else this morning, Pleeman?
No, that's fine, and you're right, Patty. The polls, the polls are open on Monday. That's the election date. So I encourage all the residents in that area to get out and support Jim McKenna. Yeah,
I don't know how many registered voters are in Fogawala and Cape Friels. The totals last year, I think Derek Bragg had about 2,500. Then it was 1,500 and less than 100 for the NDP candidate. And I think on the first day of advance polling this year, there was 732 people voted. So that's a good opening day. We'll see what kind of by-election turnout we get. Generally speaking, it's pretty woeful, but hopefully that's not the case this go around, regardless of who wins. I appreciate the time, Pleeman. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you, Patty.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Pleeman Forsey, the PC member for Exploits. Let's check in on the Twitter box. We're VOCM Openline. You can follow us there. Email address is openline@vocm.com. Our favour is when you join us live on the air. And again, friendly reminder, it doesn't matter if it's been brought up here on the program already today or this week or in the past. If it's something new you'd like to broach, let's do that, or whatever you want to talk about right after the final break of the morning and the week. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 2. Megan, you're on the air.
Hi, how are you?
I'm okay. How about you?
Good. I just want to answer a question about the your last question about why not giving the workers the permanent position when they actually need it.
Okay.
I could be just my opinion because I work actually in healthcare in Alberta, and so I actually didn't get a pension until I became full-time, until I became permanent. So maybe they just don't want to pay out pensions.
But is that actually the case here? And I don't know the answer to this question,
I don't know.
But I'm pretty sure that if you are working in the public sector, you start contributing to your pension right away.
Well, I work for the government of Alberta in the public sector, and it said I didn't contribute to my pension until I was actually considered a full-time employee and not temporary.
That could be right, Megan. And so I suppose the easiest thing for me to do is just simply ask the Registered Nurses Union and or the Health Authority itself, because if that's the rationale, then pinching pennies when the political pressure to fill the jobs seems like a kind of silly thing to do, given the fact that governments will inevitably change hands, and whatever liabilities or responsibilities are brought to bear by offering someone a full-time job with a pension, that concern is 30 years away. So the concern today is having nurses on the floor.
Absolutely. And it's the same all over Canada. I heard about it, and I figured I'd put in a 2 cents to let you know that that's in another province what's happening. It could be the same thing.
Yeah, I'm glad you called, and it's something I have to figure out for sure, and for once and for all, and I'll do exactly that, but I appreciate your time. When we talk about healthcare staff shortages and pressures and wait times, people think that, this province is a unique, standalone unicorn. We're the only people with the problem. What does it look like and feeling like in Alberta?
It depends on where you go. Like I live rural, so it almost seems like with us the wait times for emergency are less. But like if you go into the cities, it's busy. But we don't have a family doctor. Our family doctors are leaving, and it's hard to get one.
Yeah, and I think that's the same sort of conversation that we've had many times here, is that when you talk about and think about the fact that rural seems to have some different set of circumstances and problems than some urban settings, because it's difficult to recruit. It's as simple as that. Healthcare professionals are in demand. And, I can't say every healthcare professional, but many choose to live closer to amenities and airports and maybe friends and family or where they went to school, whatever the case may be, because rural Canada's having a problem connecting. They just are.
It's everywhere. It's at Alberta, it's maybe there's more jobs there, but we still need healthcare professionals there as well.
Yeah, for sure. Where are you from originally?
I'm from St. John's originally.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just here on holidays.
Where are you in Alberta?
I'm in Stettler, so I'm close to Red Deer, so I'm halfway between Edmonton and Calgary.
Right there on the trail. Good to have you on the show, Megan. I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
There you go. A quick call from Alberta. Never hurts. Let's see here. We'll get another one in for sure before we run out of time. Let's go to line number 5. Good morning, Jeff Jackson. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you doing this morning?
Excellent today. How about you?
Good. So,
let's talk about fire season. Now, we know there was a pretty drastic one last year, and I'm not in the mood to get into arson versus climate change, what have you, but they're also really worried about the pending fire season. We didn't do too badly in this province last year, but of course in other parts of the country it was devastating. So what do you got coming up?
So, Patty, what we've done is we've organized a tabletop session here in our local area on the Trinity Shore between the municipalities and the local service districts, and we're going to be conducting a joint training along with various agencies with government, FES and the Department of Forestry and Agri-Foods. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be running a scenario which is being prepared by some of the government agencies, and we're going to try to find out if there's any gaps or additions that needs to be made, and just a proactive approach to what we think is going to be the norm now every year.
So when you talk about gaps, are we talking about the number of firefighters or water bombers or equipment on the ground? What are we referring to?
Well, if there's anything that we can learn from an exercise, like if we need more people to help evacuate shut-ins or seniors complexes, if the fire takes a turn that's affecting areas that are vulnerable, we want to make sure that we have enough, or we know where to go. With the municipalities all having emergency plans, they would all be used as well. You understand what I'm saying?
I think so. And there was also a concern last year about the fitness test that so many firefighters were unable to pass. Do you have any information or understanding about that, Jeff?
Well, Patty, that is a provincial government item that applies to all the, career force firefighters. What we are, we're just a volunteer firefighters that are only going to look after what's inside our municipal boundaries. If there's a fire in the country, that will be looked after by provincial services. And by no means are we trying to take anything away from all those firefighters. We're just going to be, looking after what we're doing for our communities, right? So, and that being said, we do have several firefighters on our department that last year were trained in urban interface for firefighting by the fire commissioner's office, and that is in conjunction with the provincial fire services.
And fair enough. I was just wondering, as someone in the field working as a training officer and or a volunteer firefighter, because that was a concerning story to me, is that we had people trained professionally ready to roll, but the fitness test wasn't passed, and consequently that's people that don't have their boots on the ground in the force for the fire. So anything else you want to tell us about this particular training session?
Well, some of the agencies that have been invited to attend are the Avalon North Wolverines, the RCMP, the Canadian Red Cross, Fire and Emergency Services, Newfoundland Department of Forestry and Agri-Foods, and Newfoundland Power, and the paramedicine transport, which would be necessary for some of the long-term care facilities we have in our areas. So, we'll take back up, do like a little post-mortem after we have this, and we'll see how everything runs. We're just trying to be proactive in our area and give everybody in our area the best coverage and the best fire protection that we can give them.
Good on you. So the where and the whens?
So it's April 27th, and we're having it at the Whiteway Memorial Building, and we're having, it'll encompass from Greens Harbor down as far as Carson Tent, and we'll give you an update after it goes and just see how it all pans out. I look forward to it. So do I need to call and register, or can I just show up? No, we have a list of people that we have included in our tabletop, right? Okay. Well, but any media agencies wants to come and follow our story, more than welcome to. Then we'll have a media officer there that can discuss how everything is going. I did indeed pass it along to our newsroom. I anticipate they're going to do something. Okay, Patty. Thank you. Appreciate your work, buddy. I appreciate your time, Jeff. Have a nice weekend. You too. Bye-bye. All the best. Bye-bye. It's Jeff Jackson. He's a volunteer firefighter with the Trinity South Central Volunteer Fire Department. And, sometimes we just, kind of lose sight of the fact that so many communities' fire services are presented or provided by volunteers. And as I'm told, and I think it's absolutely true, the only difference between someone working in a volunteer fire department versus, say, for instance, St. John's Regional Fire Department is they do the same things. One comes with the career and the pay associated with being a so-called, I don't know, people get mad at me when I say professional, but they know what I mean here. So big thanks to everyone who does that sort of important volunteer work. We talked about volunteer crisis across the country. Still communities out there actively looking for people to come in and be a volunteer firefighter as well. So if you have that type of department in your community and you have the wherewithal, the capacity and the want, maybe you can explore that. All right, good show today. Big thanks to everyone who supports the program, all of the callers, listeners, emailers, tweeters. You're all right. We will indeed pick up this conversation again on Monday morning right here on VOCM and Big Land FM's Openline. On behalf of the producer David Williams, I'm your host Paddy Daly. Have yourself a safe, fun, happy weekend. Talk Monday. Bye-bye.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses, so don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.